So we're actually live streaming this event because we had some people from Austin in Texas that wanted to see these events, but they cannot use grant money to travel to Boston every weekend to see this. So we're live streaming, and today we have the pleasure of having Dr. Loggia with us today. I got the pronunciation right? Yeah, great. Which will talk about neuroinflammation.
All right. Yes, excellent pronunciation is the hand gesture also. One day I'll give a little tutorial what that means. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about, well, first of all, I was super excited, when Thomas last week got the award. I was wondering, I wonder which award I'll get today, right? And then Michael told me, sorry, you have to fix a couple of $1 million worth of equipment to get that. So I don't think I'm going to get any, unfortunately. But hopefully it will still be fun, at least for me. I'm going to talk to you about neuroinflammation, okay? And some of you who know my work might remember that I'm very interested in chronic pain, so for sure I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our work in chronic pain patients. However, I'm going to also take the opportunity to highlight the work that several other members of the Martinos family, both the nuclear family and the extended family, are doing in the field. And so I'm going to talk to you about neurodegenerative disorders as well. And I'm going to do that to highlight that work, but also, in my mind, that work also helps me inform my understanding of what I'm seeing in chronic pain, because the role of neuroinflammation in a neurodegenerative disorder is much better understood than chronic pain. So first of all, what is neuroinflammation? Very simply put, it's inflammation of the brain, the spinal cord, etc. Much like your different part of the body gets inflamed when challenged by certain factors, certain events. Also, the brain and the spinal cord are capable of mounting neuroimmune activation. And although the cellular players are a little bit different there. And neuroinflammation can be seen in response to many different events, such as viral bacterial infections, pollution, smoking. You guys are drinking, so probably a little bit of that as well. We're all getting older, and aging, unfortunately, is with neuroinflammation, etc. One thing I also want to stress is that it's about the concept of neurogenic neuroinflammation. So even some type of neuroactivity can induce inflammation. I think this is a crucial concept to keep in mind to interpret at least some of the data I'm going to show you. So I was telling you before that different players are involved, different cellular players are involved in neuroinflammation as opposed to inflammation outside of the central nervous system. The main players are microglia and astrocytes. So the glial cells, they used to be called, the boring glia, the support cells in the central nervous system. They don't do much, but in fact they do a lot. So in the presence of invading microorganism, of some neurodegenerative processes, etc., these cells are capable of detecting the presence of this, let's say, this lesion or this microorganism, and they respond to it. They respond to it by undergoing a series of cellular and molecular changes we collectively call glial activation. And in the context of glial activation, there's a lot of things that happen. There's change in gene expression, there's production and release of cytokines and other pro-inflammatory mediators that actually affect the way neurons talk to each other. And in some cases, just in the context of microglia, I'm not sure, a beautiful video. This is from Rutgers University. This is a 2-photon imaging showing microglia cell detecting something going on in this part of the brain and trying to attack it. That actually happens to be a drop of ATP, which that's been pipetted by the investigators and kind of recapitulate what happened in the context of a lesion. So when some type of event kind of disturbs the homeostasis, these cells are capable of detecting it and they respond to it. Is this always good? So generally speaking, it's good because in the acute context, this is a little bit simplistic, but in acute context, inflammation can help you identify and address a potential harmful event, isolate it and limit its impact, and also repair any consequent damage. However, sometimes this reaction can be exaggerated or can be too prolonged. Even when the initiating event is solved, you still have this neuroinflammation lingering. And when that happens, neuroinflammation becomes pathogenic in itself. And a dysregulation of neuroinflammation has been observed and hypothesized an important pathophysiological mechanism for many disorders, from Alzheimer's to depression, schizophrenia, up to possibly chronic pain. So there's a lot of interest in imaging neuroinflammation for that reason. How do we do it? It's an active area of investigation, but so far, arguably the best way to do it is to take advantage of the properties of this protein, which is called the translocator protein, which is a mitochondrial membrane protein that is expressed a little bit ubiquitous in the intercellular system. However, at very low level in a healthy cells. However, it becomes dramatically upregulated by activated microglia and sometimes also by reactive astrocytes in the context of neuroinflammation. And the co-localization of TSPO population and glial activation has been confirmed in many different models, and in humans, this is example is TSPO expression, nicely co-localized with the IBA1 and CD68, which are microglial markers. So, of course, the reason why I'm talking to you about this is because TSPO can be imaged with the positron emission tomography. This is not a new idea. There's been PK11195, which was the prototypical radioligand. We've been doing imaging for many years. However, the problem with that radioligand is low specific, non-specific binding ratio. So there's a lot of non-specific activity, right? And binding. Now there is a second generation, now even a third generation of new radioligands that are much more specific. And one of this is PBR28. And what I'm showing you here is a snapshot of all from Martinos Center. These are different studies in patients with neurodegenerative disorders. And the take-home message from the slides is if you take a patient injected with PBR28, a patient with some brain disorder, you'll see that the signal PBR28 accumulates exactly where you expect to find inflammation, glial activation pathologies. For instance, this is, you'll find it in a MS lesion, patient with multiple sclerosis. This is the work by Athinoula Minero's group. And Huntington's disease, the basal ganglia are key regions for physiology of these disorders. And of course, we see a lot of elevation in basal ganglia in healthy volunteers. ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, as you know, is associated with the degeneration of the motor neurons. And so we see elevation in the motor cortex, cortical spinal tract, premotor cortex, etc. And I want to say for one more slide, a couple more slides on the ALS work, which is driven by Nazem Abbasi's group. I have the call here. It was really was the first author of the first publication, and in a series of publications, we're able to show that PBR28 signal in ALS correlates nicely with the clinical severity. In this case, it's under motor neuron burden. Correlates negatively with measures of neuronal integrity. The hotter the motor cortex in ALS, the thinner the cortex is. The lower level of N-acetyl aspartate. This is an MRS spectroscopy marker of neuron integrity, cortex of AVA, you see over there. And then also we reduce fractional isotropy, which is a DGI measure of white matter integrity, as you all know. So hopefully, I've convinced you that TSPO imaging can be very powerful, can be potentially inform us about neuroinflammation in various chronic disorders. So what happens if I inject now a patient with chronic pain? So we started with chronic low back pain. This is a paper that published a few years ago at this point. And we saw that a patient with chronic back pain had very much heightened signal in the thalamus. So it makes total sense, especially if you conceptualize this in terms of neurogenic neuroinflammation. So thalamus is the sensory gateway to the brain, of course, and for many senses at least. You see that this patient show their thalamus is really on fire. Okay, and to me, these are median images. This is a median group of chronic back pain patients, and the median taken from controls. The most exciting part of the study was not so much the median image, but actually the individual data. So in that data set, you could tell me arguably who is the patient, who's the control by looking at the individual data, which to us was very exciting. We also, in collaboration with Yi Zhang at the Pain Center of Mass General, we were able to look at the spinal cord of patient with type of chronic back pain and pain shooting down the leg. This is essentially sciatica, lumbar lymphadenopathy. And we're able to show that if you look at the spinal cord, the most callous part of the spinal cord, which are the parts that are connected to the roots that are affected by sciatica, okay, you see elevation in the signal, the air signal again, compared to the compared to a segment which is higher up in the spinal cord. It's not supposed to be connected with the, L4, L5, or L5, L1, etc., L5, etc., and also compared to optical integers. So chronic back pain patients seem to have elevation both in the brain and in the spinal cord. Then we decide, well, did we just get lucky? We just found out the only, chronic pain condition that is associated with elevation TSPOs. So we did a number of different studies, and the answer is no. So we did a study with the fibromyalgia collaboration with Eva Kosek in Stockholm, the Karolinska Institute, and we saw clear elevation in TSPO levels in fibromyalgia, which is a chronic pain disorder characterized by widespread pain, also many symptoms, fatigue, etc. Interesting, very different spatial distribution compared to chronic back pain. So we are toying with the idea that we might be able to chase after some clear or neuroinflammatory signatures of different pain disorders. And this is the work that's still under review, advanced review, hopefully, from Nushina Hajikani and in migraine. So we are also able to see elevation in migraine patients, and also with an association between the signal, this is, for instance, in the face area of the primary sensory cortex, and the number of attack per month. So we also have this tie-in with the clinical variables. So what? I'll show you blocks and colors, and so what does that tell us? Well, I think there are two main implications. One, there's implication for therapy. As you guys know, treating chronic pain is a big problem. You all know about the fact that the existing therapies don't work very well. We have this whole idea, this whole issue with the opioid epidemic, etc. So just simply observing that there is neuroinflammation in these patients gives us a novel therapeutic target that we can actually try to modulate. Okay, there are already in the market drugs that, as a secondary effect, might actually have an anti-neuroinflammatory action. Okay, and then the other implication is pain biomarkers. So if you go to the doctor, tell him or her that your back is terrible, like you can wake up in the morning, there is nothing that he or she can do to corroborate your verbal report. And this is because the peripheral imaging, if you look at the spinal cord, doesn't tell much, right? The structural imaging. And it's not only about not trusting the patients. Absolutely, it's most important is that we don't have a good way to detect when a treatment is working or not. So there's implication for clinical trial design, etc. I don't know if I went beyond the strict 15 minutes that Micah gave me, but I just want to conclude by saying that hopefully I've convinced you that TSPO imaging can be a powerful tool in investigation of neuroinflammation in various disorders. And about chronic pain, we show that different chronic pain groups demonstrate TSPO elevations in different signatures, both brain and spinal cord. We also see some elevation in the neuroforamen in patient with sciatica, but I haven't talked to you about that. And because TSPO is a marker of glial activation, the implication is that chronic pain is accompanied by neuroactivation, and therefore that might be a therapeutic target for chronic pain. With this, I want to thank, a lot of people. These are really the effort of the joint effort of a lot of people. I want to thank Jacob. So Jacob Hooker, very early on when I was still a postdoc, he kind of took me under his wing, and he basically helped me make this happen. So I would definitely not be able to do this work if it wasn't for him. And Dan Albright, who unfortunately decided to rejoin his beloved wife in California, not surprising. So it was the postdoc that really did most of this work, and really everybody else, and the wonderful group that I'm lucky to work with, and my funders. Thank you, guys.